This video is sponsored by PCBWAY.
Hey there, this is Seth Schaefer from Team Just Cause Robotics, and in today's video I want to go over all of Division's fights at Open Sauce. Now, I was hired to go to the Open Sauce event, so unlike usual, I actually was paid to travel to an event for the first time. The Open Sauce event had a bunch of things going on in it, but NHRL had a huge setup that they had put together just so that they could show off robot combat to the world where people might not have seen it before. The Open Sauce event was held in San Francisco about 4 weeks ago. I am very late in producing this video, so I wanted to get it out here now. In this video, I'm going to just focus on the fights that I was driving Division in, but I've got a separate video planned where I'll show some of the creator fights, because that's what I was there to help put out. There were a whole set of kits there, including my very own SSP kits, that were available for YouTubers and other content creators to pick and fight against each other with. So the Friday night before the event officially opened, there was a creator-only party, and at the end of the party, they all got to choose to battle robots against each other, and in that, it was full combat, no holds barred, 2-minute fights. So William Osman and Michael Reeves fought each other. You may have seen a video on NHRL about that already. Also, during the event, on Saturday and Sunday, there were scheduled fights for different creators to fight each other. So, for instance, the Hacksmith versus Styropyro. You had Integza versus the 3D printing nerd, and tons more. There was even a mini tournament with just the Safety Third podcast crew, William Osman, backyard scientist Alan Pan, and Nile Red. And for that, William Osman actually chose that he himself would drive Division. So make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notified when that comes out. I am, however, very behind on event recaps because I have videos from all the way back in May that haven't been posted yet. So I am planning to get those out in the next few weeks. I was just buried in work. Running a company by yourself is hard for the last several months, and I want to get through those. So if, however, you would like to support me and you want to see some of the footage from those events early, I've finally started a Patreon, so check the link down in the description below. You can already watch all of the fights that I had with both SSP and Division that were any good anyway. If you join my Patreon at $5 and above tier, so make sure to check that out. You'll also see a conversation that I had with Maker's Muse and Styropyro talking about Division and Combat Robotics as a whole there. That's been posted as a Patreon exclusive. All right, now on to the event. The Open Sauce tournament, like I said, was very different from how NHRL normally conducts events. This was not actually a tournament. This was just a series of exhibition fights. So before the event ever started, I had my list of opponents. Division was slated to fight, I don't know if I remember the order correctly, but Mixtape up first, not the best opponent to have first off the bat, followed by, I believe it was Unknown Avenger, then Supreme Ruler, then Sandstorm, and finally NotDeadYet. So 5 fights with some really tough opponents in there. If you've been paying attention, you might realize that Supreme Ruler recently won the entire NHRL Golden Dumpster tournament at the August event. I'll have a recap of that soon, because SSP made it pretty far, Division made it not quite as far, but still did all right. And the version of Division that was fighting at Open Sauce was the test bed for the changes that I wanted to run at August NHRL. All right, I've been rambling for way too long. You guys want to see some robot fights? Let's get right into the fights. So here is Division's first fight up against the brutal Flamethrower, driven by Calvin Iba, Mixtape.
Here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fight, brother! We have fire in the NHRL cage right now. There's a silhouette that we will always see the Calvin Iba flames kind of licking up all around his face. Look at him. Menacing.
Division is so much of that robot. He's classic.
are incredible. They bring a lot of attention to the sport. I just don't necessarily want to see it against my robot because this is the result. The weapon system is completely toast. I'm gonna have to basically throw away like the belt, the pulley, and probably the bearings, all the grease cooked out of them. So yeah, that didn't go particularly well. It turns out that a very flammable rubber weapon belt and nylon 3D printed weapon pulley are not the best combination to fight a flamethrower. The drive setup held up beautifully though, switching from a 3D printed plastic geared drive setup to a steel planetary geared setup seems to be really good at fighting flamethrowers. And of course, Division has a CNC milled single piece unibody chassis that is made out of aluminum, so that wasn't going to melt and I wasn't worried about the chassis deforming or anything. But what if you don't have a machined immaculate single-piece aluminum billet for your own robot? Well, then you should check out today's video sponsor, PCBWAY, who made 2 of the chassis I've been running in Division for years now. Take a look at their website, and you'll see that they offer PCB fabrication, CNC machining, industrial 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, injection molding, turning, milling, and much, much more. PCBWAY has an awesome array of capabilities that are perfect for bot builders, and if you use the link down below in the description, you'll get $5 off your first order, so make sure to check them out. It probably held up a lot better than the vast majority of 3-pound bots would have, but once my weapon went down, I knew I was screwed, so I tapped out because I had to fix Division and a fleet of kit robots that I was being paid to attend to so that the creators could have their fights. So I didn't really have time to fix Division, even though the event was 5 fights over 2 whole days. And I also didn't have time to grab my camera, unfortunately, before the next match, which was against Unknown Avenger. Now, I really wish I could tell you that I kicked Unknown Avenger's ass, even though it's like the winningest 3-pound robot to have ever existed in the history of robot combat. Unfortunately, that did not happen. David Liao kicked my butt because 10 seconds into the fight, one of my wheels fell off because the Loctite on my wheels had been loosened by Mixtape's Flamethrower, and I didn't think about that until after the wheel rolled away from the body of the robot, and it was a repeat of basically what happened in my fight against Lynx, except I got a few decent hits in before eventually, once again, I ended up just getting bullied around and had to tap out when my weapon stopped working at the end of the fight. I didn't realize at the time that my weapon had stopped working, not because I was running out of battery, but actually because a weapon phase wire had managed to loosen itself. I think potentially, again, a broken solder joint reminiscent of the solder joints that are exposed behind the weapon being melted by Mixtape's Flamethrower. So, loading into my 3rd fight against Supreme Ruler, I found out right when I was doing the switch test that my weapon was just jittering back and forth and wouldn't spin. So yeah, not the best way to start that one. So let's see how this fight against Supreme Ruler went.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fight! Robots, fight!
Oh my god.
Yeah, that didn't exactly go well. If you thought that the driving of Supreme Ruler in its past and future fights at the August NHRL were a lot better than in that one, that's because the bot was not being driven by its normal builder, designer, and driver Jeff Waters, but rather by Bradley Hanstead, because Jeff couldn't make it out to open source. He just mailed the bot out and Bradley drove it, and it looked like it was getting stuck onto the wall quite a bit, so not the best, but oh well, wasn't enough to give Division enough of an edge to win with no weapon, of course. So moving on, I was actually able to pull the weapon assembly apart and spend some time inspecting the solder joints and resolder a couple connections to make sure that I could test it before its next fight and it would actually work. And that meant I had a fully operational Division, finally, going into its next fight against Sandstorm, a two-wheel drive vertical spinner. So let's see how that fight went.
Well, in the blue corner, we see Sandstorm. And in the pink corner, we see Division. Now, you just saw Tegasa drive the SSP kit, right?
Yep.
That blue and pink robot that we just saw, that was built by Seth Schaefer. This is a very different robot built by Seth Schaefer in Division.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fight, robots, fight.
Division has one of the most powerful kinetic weapons
In the 3-pound. Yeah, in the 3-pound weight class, this thing, it hauls, man. We talked to him a little bit yesterday. This is kind of like version 3.5. There's been more than 3 versions. There's been almost countless versions, but he has like these kind of full platform, like new versions. He's up to the 3rd one and now like the 5th iteration of this one. But it's every single time he's figuring out like how do I work with the gyro a little better? How do I get a little bit more maneuverability out of it? How do I hit harder?
And Jeremy is there fighting with Sandstorm. Now this is a bot that hasn't been an HRL before.
Oh!
That's a wheel! Oh! Sandstorm needs that wheel! And now Division has kind of a perfect opportunity to try and muscle it around and get at the other wheel. That would be devastating for Sandstorm.
I think Sandstorm has now been downgraded to Sandbox.
10, 9.
Oh, wow! Looked like a big weapon hit right there.
So that's kind of the thing with Division is it takes big hits, but it also sees itself fly. It's a matter of can it survive its own hits in the process of delivering other opponents. It looks like Sandstorm is really struggling to move out of its little area right there. I don't know.
Division's kind of crawling along here on its weapon, getting himself right. He's gonna get his one on the stick from maybe the least nimble robot here at Open Sauce.
Oh, it looks like that weapon is coming up to speed. That is his best chance for being able to self-right himself.
Seth, you want to unstick?
Almost there.
At a certain point, you just have to take the help from the house robot, even if you don't want it.
Bart, not the most gentle of house bombs.
No, he's like,
Alright, tap it back off.
Yeah.
Let's see some motion. 10,
10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's a double knockout.
All right, that's a knockout. I imagine Division.
If I didn't mention it earlier, because there were no actual judges at the open source event, it was always decided by an audience cheer vote if it went to the judges. So yeah, Division was declared the winner. That is what Division is supposed to freaking do now. All right, starting to look like those upgrades weren't such a complete waste after all now, isn't it? So drive held up beautifully throughout all of those contacts. The weapon held up just fine. And while I was starting to run out of battery at the end of the fight, it ended up that the fight was ruled a double knockout and Division was awarded the win for having utterly destroyed Sandstorm in the time while it was still operating. Now, my last fight that I have to share with you today was a rematch that I had really been looking forward to against NotDeadYet. NotDeadYet was the bot that knocked Division out of the qualifying round of the March NHRL event. That event, Division went 0-2, and it was the thing that motivated me to completely switch the drive system up to being Darkbox driven now, with Dartbox Viper motors you can buy at justcauserobotics.com. And I wanted that because the 6mm steel shafts were going to hold up a lot better than the 3D printed nylon mounts that were essentially the only thing taking load off of the drive shafts before. So if Not Dead Yet were to hit my wheels, they shouldn't just fly off right away. At least that's the theory. I guess you'll just have to watch the match and find out.
Vision is the complete opposite of SSP. It is the orange vertical spinner, and it is extremely chaotic. Not Dead Yet is the horizontal spinner. It's the blue
Fight, robots, fight!
And it has proven very devastating. Oh, energy! Just like that big hit, and Not Dead Yet is hanging out up against the tail plate. It's a big hit out of Division.
Division saying, you can use your own stick work. I can hold it well.
So this is a tricky angle for Brad to work on. Division's going to say, let me give it a try, and that's a nice on stick. Well done, Seth.
Bart's on vacation. Division's got this. Division on the house and the opponent.
Maybe Not Dead Yet.
gonna see some motion.
Again, can Not Dead Yet move?
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
That's a countdown happening
3,
right now.
2, 1, knockout!
That's a knockout for Division. There's your Division victory dance.
Great showing from
Always fun and one of the most chaotic bots we have at NHRL. They've been entertaining us for years.
Revenge is sweet. Not Dead Yet had the back frame bent up like this, higher than their wheels stuck out on top. So when I got another good hit on them and I got them flipped over, their wheels weren't touching the ground and they got counted out. Not exactly a total destruction move, but it was enough to get them immobilized, so that's good enough for a KO for me. I did have one of the signal plugs going into my receiver for a drive side on Division unplug at the end. Simply plugging that back in and adding some hot glue this time was all that was needed to get that drive side working again. However, no real damage suffered on Division outside of that. So, next, of course, I was not driving Division anymore, but William Osman was. So let me show you the one real fight that William Osman had, driving against Nile Red, piloting a Peterbar kit.
Alright, here we go! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fight, robots, fight!
Box rush by William Osman out of the gate.
Hey, don't turn your thing.
Millions of subscribers on the line.
All right, he's retreating, giving Nile Red a little bit to, get his bearings.
You call that the right call.
Oh! All right, big hit there. Division on his head.
One sit-up. You just got to do one sit-up.
Full throttle, full throttle. This is the worst angle. There you go.
Down.
Bart, our house bot, able to stick to Division.
Swing up. Oh, there you go.
Weapon is now up to speed on Division. William is out for blood.
Go full throttle. There you go.
Oh!
That's the first time I think I heard Division get close to top tip speed.
Having some issues. Might have a motor down.
You got it! You got it!
Oh!
Nice little spin.
1 minute remaining!
Melting brain right there. That hit 1 minute. Wow, we're really burning through this spot.
Stop running away!
There's a lot that can happen, and the time remaining is everyone's game here. We've got a head-to-head battle right now. Division trying to pin Peterbar into the corner, trying to show that control.
There you go.
30 seconds remaining!
30
30
seconds.
seconds
Somebody
left.
call Bonnie Tyler because we're all holding out for a hero in this match.
He's done! He's done!
William begging Bart to flip it over.
All right.
There he
That was
is.
a little friendly self-right.
Okay, now fix my wheel.
This is everyone's
Now
match.
fix my wheel.
We're down to our final 10 seconds.
7,
Oh boy.
4,
3, 2, 1.
That's not. Wow. I tried to save you.
All right, audience, you are our judges once again. You have the power to decide if either William or Nile Red is the winner. So if you think that Nile Red in the white robot has won this match, make some noise.
Yeah, not the best. So honestly, both of the drive gearboxes got damaged, and I'm not entirely sure why they were damaged because it didn't look like the Peterbar kit got a significant hard hit on them. It could be that the sintered gears in the gearbox were weakened by Mixtape's Flamethrower. It could be that it was just accumulated shock from all of the other fights. I don't really know, but unfortunately both drive sides did lock up, and when I pulled the gearboxes apart, I found that the output stage gears were broken. So in the latest order of the Darbuck gearboxes that I've just placed recently, I've actually asked for them to upgrade the gears to hobbed machined solid steel gears instead of sintered on the outputs of the 6mm shaft gearboxes. So in a couple months, I will start to phase in those, and I will also have for sale replacement gears, just the gears themselves, for just a few dollars that you'll be able to swap into any existing Dartbox gearbox. I believe those should work with the 4mm ones. There will be one caveat though, which is that the way Planeteer gearbox works, you've got a sun gear in the middle, planet gears on the outside. So I'll be selling just the planet gears. The sun gear on the carrier plate leading into that output stage is also being upgraded in the 6mm gearboxes that will be shipped, and that will not be available as a separate piece. So you'll have to make do with the sun gear being the same as it was before, but the planet gears will be a lot stronger and hopefully won't have that failure again. So yeah. All right. That, I think, covers pretty much everything I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Click like if you enjoyed this one, and as always, thanks for watching. Oh, and, check out the Patreon. That would be so nice of you. And there's lots more behind-the-scenes content that I'll be posting there in the coming days and weeks, in addition to all the fight videos that have not yet been posted into recaps. And going forward, I will be trying to upload fight footage basically as soon as I can after each event to Patreon, so anybody can watch it. And this will be footage recorded on my own camera for the most part. And usually at NHRL events, especially with a lot of the fights not making it to the stream, this will be footage that you won't really have been able to see otherwise unless you happened to be watching the Brett Zone live at just the right time and just the right cage. So I think that'll be nice for people to be able to follow along with how my bots are doing when I don't have as much time as I'd like to post videos like this one, because editing is quite a bit of work, and I am a very busy person nowadays. So yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you again.